Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome to the next session of the Ready, Set, Launch Mastermind's annual summit. My name is Roderick Sims, founder and principal consultant of Sims Coaching Group. Today, I have the honor of moderating a roundtable discussion with some very dynamic entrepreneurs from different fields who are also members of our online community. This will be a roundtable discussion that will focus on learning about their entrepreneurial journeys, and then having them share and answer some questions from our community about best practices and things they would do differently, all that great stuff. We're going to go ahead and get the ball rolling. So, I know you want to talk to them or hear from them and less from me. So we'll go ahead and get things started. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with Will McNeil. Could you please introduce yourself, sir?
Hi, I'm Will McNeil. I'm the CEO and founder of Black Tech Jobs. At our core, our business is focused on connecting the Black tech community to the broader business and technology communities across the three segments of our business. At blacktechjobs.com, you'll see thousands of jobs listed all across the country. You'll also notice that we are a executive retained search firm where we focus on placing mid-career and senior level Black tech executives, as well as a diversity consultancy. So my entrepreneurial career started around I was 8 or 9 years old, and somewhere between then and now there's been 6 or 7 other companies. But I'm glad to be with you and our other panelists today for our discussion.
Thank you, Will. We'll move to Miss Melinda Anderson.
Okay, hello everyone, good evening. My name is Melinda Anderson. I am the president and creative director of Studio M Detroit. And Studio M Detroit is a boutique event design and production company. And we specialize in bold and courageous design. And really what that means is that we want to take our events up to the next level. We take risks, we go forward, we produce a design that is innovative and fresh. And really that, I draw a lot of experience from my background training as an architect and living abroad, doing set design and architecture, and then being able to produce many large-scale events in the city of Detroit. So formerly the creative direction for the Detroit Month of Design, which is a UNESCO City of Design, and the Movement Festival, and a bunch of other events. So I'm really happy to be here and to share my entrepreneurial journey with you guys and the panelists for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much, Melinda. Appreciate that. And last but not least, Mr. Darren Tillis. Darren?
Good evening, Brother Sims, and thank you for having me. Again, my name is Darren Tillis, and I'm the president of the Darren Tillis Insurance Agency, primarily the seller of State Farm insurance products. Been with State Farm for 26 plus years. We primarily focus on selling property and casualty insurance, life and health insurance, as well as other financial service products like bank products, checking and savings accounts, mortgage products, and that's basically it. Glad to be here, excited about the conversation we're about to have about entrepreneurship. Let's go.
And Darren, I truly appreciate that. So what we're going to do now is I have some predetermined questions for the group. So I'm going to throw these out here, and we're going to let you guys go for it a little bit. So the first question I have is, what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur?
I guess I'll kick it off. I think there's 3 things that come to mind. The flexibility from a time perspective, probably more than any other time in my professional life. I get more time with my family and the flexibility to do things with them. And second is, of course, being your own boss, but really controlling your own destiny. So mapping out what your paycheck's going to be against versus having someone else tell you what your value is to the market. And then third, just the community that's of entrepreneurs and how we invest in each other and support each other. It's different than I think working at a job, even camaraderie amongst people you work with. It's just an amazing ecosystem, especially in technology across the country.
Thank you, Will. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
I'll get started, Melinda, if it's okay. So I'm in an insurance industry, and it's an industry that most people just don't have a true understanding of the products and services, and they know that they need it. They most oftentimes don't want to pay for it. So what I primarily enjoy is, first of all, educating folks about the products and services that are available to them and how it can help them with wealth building. But the main thing I enjoy is the autonomy that I receive from being a CEO, being able to have that flexibility, being able to self-govern yourself and be able to do the stuff that you need to do when you need to do it, being able to turn it on and turn it off when you want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Darren and Will said, I love the flexibility of being an entrepreneur, especially with COVID. Now I think the industry has opened up where one could work remotely from anywhere. And so that's been a great blessing to be able to work from home and work in different places. I think that what we saw in our industry were the rise of virtual events. So I enjoy the creativity of being an entrepreneur, not only seeing my visions come to life, but also the problem solving. Like I love being able to have to think quickly and solve problems and feel like a superhero at the end of the day, because many of the events that I do, sometimes they are a once in a lifetime moment for people, or they're really important events, big cultural events. And so I love that. And I think that the pressure of being an entrepreneur and knowing that everything falls on your shoulders, and that if you win and when you win, it's yours, versus working for someone else, they get the credit, they get a lot of the glory, and usually you can just be in the background. So I love the risk of being an entrepreneur and being able to hit a home run with those risks.
All right, fantastic. Those are definitely all good topics and things I hear on a regular basis. So there's nothing I have to add to that. So we'll go to the next question. What is the biggest lesson you have learned as an entrepreneur?
Biggest lesson.
Go ahead.
I think for me, I am a creative. And so the biggest lesson I had to learn was the business side of being an entrepreneur, the insurance, the lawyer, liability, because I just want to make things look good and want to see people enjoy themselves. But working for yourself, I had to quickly learn all of the details, and I'm still learning, the accounting and all the paperwork. So I think that that's been the biggest challenge and thing that I've learned, is to just really how to stay on top of those details, because the creativity, I have that's no problem. But the business side, that's what I really want to expand upon.
Great.
And I'll chime in and apologize, Rod. I got a bunch of lessons because I've hit the tough lesson stick a few times.
You're gonna say your number
I'm sorry.
one
So
lesson.
we're gonna say one. So
Yeah.
so I think I'd say the number one is getting a mentor. And so I would tell you, there's so many things that you can learn from people who've done what you're trying to do in a different lane or in the same lane. And I would tell you today, I have more mentors today than I did at 15, 19, 20, 25, pick an age. And I acquire new ones for different reasons. And the other thing is I listen to them now. I put my know-it-all hat in my back pocket, and I made a commitment to stay a student, and then also kind of a numerical commitment to acquire a certain number of mentors every year. And so I was really fortunate, even in the last week, to get a mentor of someone who has a 20-year-old business in the same field as me, who built it from scratch, who absolutely bootstrapped. He's got an 8 or 9 figure business. I don't know what the real numbers are, but this guy's making time for me. And the last email I got today, which just came through like 2 minutes ago, was from him. And so he's waiting on me to respond. And so I'm just thankful to be able to have that.
Yeah, Rod, it's hard to say what are some of the lessons that I've learned, but the biggest lesson is making sure you understand your numbers. When you're first getting started out, you're focused on getting the business going. You're excited. Everybody's excited about you. but now you got to focus on how do I get to those. Will said, your destiny is determined primarily by you, and now you got to go out and get those numbers. So the biggest challenges for me was just understanding the numbers, what they mean in a comprehensive fashion, and how do I go about getting them. So that's the biggest lesson.
Good stuff. So I heard mentors, lessons, and understanding the business, all good lessons. Could teach a class on each one of those, but we won't do that today.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, at Sims Coaching Group, the memo, good Lord, our marching orders are helping clients define their success and then finding their success. So my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, how do you define success as an entrepreneur?
So for me, I'll start, guys. For me, how I define success is primarily because of the industry I'm in. I deliver a promise. There's an intangible product that's out there, and most people just pay a fee and they don't know anything about this actual service until they need it. So the first thing, what I define as success is making sure I deliver the promise. And then also what I define as success is making money. If my business is growing and I'm making money for me, that's a success, because I've done all the other work that I needed to do. And now I want to be able to yield the results of all the success that I've had.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can chime in. So I had a long corporate career as a senior level executive before I launched this last company. And I went into it knowing that there were some things that I needed to know. And so one of them is just building metrics around what success is every month, week, and quarter, breaking it down into small pieces, and then managing what I call the ratios, the relationships between your costs and your expenses and your growth, and really investing in tools and technology that allow you to stay abreast of it. Because it's one thing to make sales and another thing to get a paycheck. And the gap between those two, when those two things happen, can be the beginning and end of your business. The other thing is, we're kind of a social enterprise. So we help Black folk find jobs, good paying jobs. And so one of the ways we measure success is how many people we are able to put in the job and how we're able to grow their income and their career trajectory. And so not just moving people from job A to job B at the same level, but how do we help them elevate and get in environments with growth companies where they can really excel? And then lastly, I just ask, are we getting better? Are we delivering on our promises? Are we going from initial contract to closed deal and solution found in what period of time? And if we're doing that, then I think that's how we measure success. But recently we brought in someone to help us. We just brought a new director of operations to help us operationalize our entire business, audit every facet of it, redo our processes. And so we're improving on that. But I think that happens over time. But I think initially, when you're getting out of the gate in your early career, early stage entrepreneur, does your income exceed your expenses, and does your income come in time for you to meet your obligations?
I think, as the other gentlemen have stated, definitely income and making money. Those are absolutely one of the ways that I define success. But for me, when I produce an event, a lot of my success is defined by attendance and impact. And so we've done a lot of events around educating people on the value of design and what is design. And so in one night, one of our events pulls 25,000 people. So that's a success. But then we have to look at our other events and what is the return rate for those people coming back to our events and learning more about design, and then using design to impact their communities. What are they taking away from what we've taught them, and how are they making their communities better? I think that a big part of my career was helping Detroit to become on the map for design, not just automotive design. Everyone knows that we are known for that, but exposing a lot of the makers and the designers and all the creatives that we have here, that wasn't well known 10 years ago. And now I think that it is known. And we have, you know, we are the only city in North America to have the designation of a UNESCO City of Design. So that was a huge success. So those are some of the ways that I define success in my work.
You know, it's pretty interesting. We're all in the people business. We're all in the business of servicing people and help them move along. And our success ultimately comes from if we're doing a great job of helping people. With you, Melinda, it's about filling a room with an entire crowd, making sure that everybody understands the theme and what's going on. With you, Will, it's about, hey, making sure that people are developing folks and growing and make sure holistically. So we're in the people business at the end of the day. When we're taking care of people, we're gonna definitely get taken care of.
I agree. I completely agree.
I agree.
Absolutely. And I don't take that position lightly. That's impacting people. It's a very great position to be in.
And they're always going to be around. They're not going anywhere. So we just got to do what we need.
Oh.
Do that.
Well, the good thing is what I heard you all say, you know, as I coach entrepreneurs consistently, is it's about making some money. So everybody says they define success by making money, because nobody starts a business to go out of business. At least I hope not, right? You don't start a business to be broke. But obviously it's more to it than that. And so I'm definitely excited to hear and glad to hear that it's more than just the money. Because again, when it's only the money, then you're misaligned a little bit as well. So it sounds like not only you guys get it right financially, but you're aligned properly as well on the other part. So appreciate that. Now, I have some individual questions for each, since I have an opportunity to know a little bit about each one of you. I have a question to bring some things forward about you guys. So first up, Melinda, what has been your proudest accomplishment as an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm. So I think my proudest accomplishment as an entrepreneur was my first year in business. Well, there are two. My first year in business, winning $25,000 from the Knight Foundation for an installation that I'm in the process of producing. For me, that was a big accomplishment because for so many years, my bosses were the ones that wrote the grants and were awarded the grants. And I was always not that as confident about my writing skills. And so for this was the second grant that I wrote, and I ended up getting it. And so that was huge. And then getting the designation from Cranes Detroit as a woman of design, you know, I know that awards are great, but for me, I never really applied to them. And the 40 under 40 and stuff like that, I never even applied to it. So getting recognized with that designation was a super big accomplishment in my first year in business.
I know before you started, you're doing your side business. You did a big event called Design Talk. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So Design Talk, yes, that was an event inspired by Black Panther. And Black Panther was super hot. I think it had just come out. And then I threw it out on Facebook. I said, you know, if I produced a Design Talk on Black Panther, would anybody come? So I had this idea of doing a series of talks. And the first one was, I wanted to feature Black designers and Black talent, because that was what the movie was all about. And I'm about using design to inspire others. So we flew in the jewelry designer that did all of the beautiful pieces in Black Panther, and we had a great design talk, but it wasn't like your ordinary lecture and talk. You know, I produced so many lectures that were super, super boring. So this one, you know, you were greeted by African drummers when you came in. I encouraged everybody to get Wakanda style. And then we opened up the talk with these Wakandan dancers, this dance troupe of young ladies. And then we had a DJ, and it was just great. So it was a great event to show that design could be fun, but also educational.
Man, I hate I missed it. It sounds amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I need to bring it back. So.
Thank you for sharing that, Melinda. Definitely some great things to be proud of. Next up, Darren, got a question for you, sir. When was the moment you realized you needed to own your own business?
Can you repeat that question, Rob? Because it went up.
No problem. When was the moment you realized that you needed to own your own business?
So growing up in the inner city, similar to Flint and Detroit here in Chicago, your overall, and being the only boy in a family of women, your overall goal is to go to college. Well, try to be successful in whatever way you can. So I decided to go to college, joined State Farm in college, interned at State Farm in college, came back to Chicago, started working at State Farm, knew that there were opportunities within the company to move around. However, I had the responsibility of being a caretaker for an elderly uncle and an elderly grandmother. So I was limited as far as the growth because, you know, Rod, at State Farm, you had to travel outside of the Chicagoland area and move to another state. Well, that was never an option for me. And I knew that I did not want to be in the current situation. My parents never talked to me about owning a business. I don't ever recall ever talking to a business owner about potentially owning a business. But the opportunity came about having your own business. And I didn't know a whole bunch about owning a business. All I knew is that I knew about insurance. I knew I had a gift of gab, and I knew I could talk to anybody about insurance. So at that point, I knew there was no other development opportunities for me to grow and make money. And also at the time, I started investing in real estate, and I needed more autonomy with my time to be able to move around and not be stuck at a desk. So it all happened basically at the same time. And I ended up growing, so I had to start a scratch agency. As you guys know, most folks, they inherit a State Farm agency. So that means they get a book of business and they have an opportunity to grow the business. Well, for me, I got nothing. So I'm like most of you guys, I just had to get the business and grow it over time. And one of the most challenging things and during a challenging economy, but you know, it worked itself out. So I never thought about being a business owner, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
It works.
Can I just say that I commend you for having the pressure of being a caregiver too, because I have some familiarity with that situation and being an entrepreneur. So I definitely commend you for doing that because it is it's tough.
And Melinda, to your point, during my early years as a State Farm agent, I was being a caretaker to those and still trying to grow the business. And so oftentimes people will see me out and I'm grinning and enjoying myself. And I may be enjoying myself a little too much because of all the workload that I have, you know, and Rod knows this, and most people know, most people are looking for you to fail when you start because they know the challenges that are in front of you. But, you know, I understood that I was going to make it regardless. So, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Darren, I know that your entrepreneur was the real estate piece and State Farm agency. Even led to you having some political interest at one time. Did your lifestyle as an entrepreneur encourage you to get into politics a little bit?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question, Rod. So we're in the people business, and I enjoy people. I love people. I love talking to them, and I'm about educating. And so I realized there was a need for leadership in the community that I was in. And fundamentally what you learn in the business, running a ward, a senate, being a senator, a state rep, the governor, it's a business, but they never really run it like they should. They don't run it like a business. So I wanted to be an elected official so I could run the business the right way, develop individuals within the community and help grow it. And I didn't see it as a long-term gig. I saw it as something that I would probably want to do about maybe 2 terms, 8 years and get done with it. So everything that I learned in business helped me. Everything that I learned in business helped me. And a lot of the same principles as far as cold calling, walking up to a stranger, having a conversation, listening more than you talk, those are fundamental things that we learn in business that is ideal. So anytime I see a business person that runs for state office, now everybody says a lot about our former president, but he was a business person. I understand that they're a formidable candidate anytime you're a business person running for office.
I like that approach. The idea of, I think that's the way the businesses think too. Right? So you're thinking, I'm going to act in X amount of time, I'm going to solve X amount of problems, and then I'm going to pass the mic, versus I'm going to just sit in the seat until I die and then give it to my son. So that's good stuff.
You know, man, most of the people, no disrespect to some of the industry that some of our elected officials come from, but most of the people, they come from like social service industries where they don't fully understand just the business aspect of it. Anytime you bring a business person in who grows an organization from the ground up, their acumen is a little different than a regular individual. So that's why I tell anybody, if it's something that you're passionate about, now let me say this, I didn't know any elected officials, no family members were elected officials, never spent any time with them. But it's just dealing with people. I know how to deal with people. That's simple. You're going to pay me a fairly decent amount of money to be an alderman in a ward to do the stuff that I already do. Yeah, I'll go out and raise some money for that.
Sure.
That's a no-brainer.
Thank you for sharing that, Darren. I appreciate that. Will, you're up next, sir. Will, what would you tell your younger self about being a successful serial entrepreneur?
Man, so my story really starts 2 generations ago. So I'm the grandson of a sharecropper. So that meant that my father didn't believe in traditional allowance. And so if you wanted something, you must earn it. And he made one of the best lessons he ever taught me was, one of these days, son, I'm not going to be here. And he was saying this when he was a 30-something-year-old man. I'm like, right? Like, what are you talking about? You don't have gray hair yet. And I would get this every time I asked for allowance, every time I asked for lunch money. And what that made me do was not want to ask him for money and go out and make my own. And so I had my first business. I was a young kid, probably around 8, somewhere between 8 and 10. And I sold flower seeds and plant seeds to the little old ladies in my neighborhood. And so I ordered it in off of a magazine or a cartoon book or a comic book, got the package in the mail, had my seeds. So I got it on consignment. So they sent it to me, so because I don't want to put that out there. This video is going out public. I got it on consignment. So that meant I had to come up with the money because they were sending the bill and the bill was coming due. And my father was not going to pay. So I'm out here hustling. I'm going door to door. Every old lady in the neighborhood knew me. So by this 3rd year, they were waiting on me. And I was like, I got more coming. It's like, make sure you get some more cucumber, baby, because you didn't have cucumber last year and I had to go to the store.
I love it.
And so now I had this book of business, to what you were talking about, Darryl, that I had developed. And I bought my first skateboard, my first camera, my first guitar with my own money. And so I had these packages coming into my house, and in our neighborhood, when you're buying stuff and people don't understand where the money's coming from, my dad was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Where's this? And I had to break it down and all the letters, then he could process what was happening. And so so that was the first business. And I actually, to what Darren was describing, that my route that followed that, was a neighbor of ours was the illegal lottery man. And the guys who ran the lottery, who were numbermen, didn't want to run to little old ladies who were making 50-cent and $1 bets. So guess who got that job? And so
I already had a base.
They felt safe with me. You don't want a big, grown, scruffy man going to your grandmother's house. You got this little kid, and man, I will tell you, by 12 or 13, I had a 4-digit savings account in the 70s.
Wow.
A lot of money. So I stacked it up, but I won't even tell you what happened the day my dad found out about it, because I just couldn't explain that. But to stay on target for what I would tell my younger self is the things you are learning today, young man, are going to help you in your future. When you fall down, just keep getting up. If you get knocked down 20 times, all you got to do is get up 21 and you're winning. And so what I didn't know was all of these little things that I was learning along the way, like in my journey, was not an easy one. I was a young father. I met my high school sweetheart. We didn't have much. I was working 3 jobs, working 7 days a week. And of course, my wife didn't like it, but I had no real marketable skills. But what I also learned that that drew me through that, even if I didn't know everything, there were few people in the world that I would allow that could outwork me. And so, like, even now, my wake up is 4:30. I try to get stuff done so then I spend time with people during normal business hours and do all of my other stuff early and late. And so that grind really paid off in a lot of ways in what I'm doing today. So the big thing is you are learning lessons, young man. Keep learning those lessons. And then the last thing I would tell myself is you can't do it by yourself. And I've spent a lot of years thinking that if I worked hard enough, if I was smart enough, if I knew more, then what I actually discovered is and people talk about who you know, but who knows you and who's willing to vouch for you when you're not in the room has a significantly larger impact on how smart you are, how talented you are, and how good you are at what you do or how hard you work. Because when I think about those people who've built billion-dollar businesses, so the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, you could call him a genius. I wouldn't argue with you, but I would also tell you he was the right place at the right time. If he would have shown up with Facebook 2 years before MySpace, we would never know what it was. And so sometimes being in the right place at the right time with the right skills, going in the right direction with the right people can mean more than being talented. And so, I even think about it in sport, the guy who just moved to the Knicks, and I can't think of his name now, but he was a 6th man. He couldn't get off the bench in Oklahoma City. And he decided, he was at the wrong place at the wrong time and became one of the most dominant players in the league because he decided to step out on his own and leave what was arguably potentially one of the best teams in the league at the time. And so those are the things that I think about are just you're learning good lessons. You can't do it by yourself. Listen to your coaching, get help, stay a student, and you'll be amazed at what you can do.
If I can just add something to what Will said, and it kind of boils down to, in business, there are days that you don't know where that next sale is going to come from. And we've all been in our room sitting there like, but the one thing I know and what being a business owner has taught me is that you just got to have faith that everything is going to work itself out. So I never get rattled when things aren't going well, because if I have a goal and I'm trying to get there, it's going to work out. I remember first starting out, and it was on maybe the 29th day of a 30-day month. And I'm wondering, I need 5 or 6 more sales. And Miss Snow gives me a call. Didn't think I was going to get the business. End up meeting a lady at the house. I think I sold her 3 cars, 2 life insurance, and did her house. And those are my numbers. So I say all of that to say, for me, a lot of times it's just having the faith that knowing that everything is going to work itself out. And like Will said, it's always going to work itself out. We just got to be patient and understand that, hey, it's going to get there. Not in our time sometime, but it's definitely we're going to get what we need. And we're going to get what we deserve of.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thanks for sharing on that, Darren. Will, as I talk to small business owners, I definitely believe there's a difference between being a small business owner and being an entrepreneur, different type of mindset, and then especially being a serial entrepreneur like yourself, because you've had multiple businesses. But could you humor me, sir, and just tell me all the businesses that you've had?
Oh, wow. Okay. So we heard about the first 2.
Yeah.
That's how I want to say, so my 3rd business happened when I was in the Army. So when I was in the Army, I only made about $400 a month. And so having that history of hustle, I bought me a $25 clipper set to save money. I cut my own hair. To this day, I don't have a barber because I saved money to cut my own hair. And so someone asked me, hey, can you cut my hair? And so one day I was doing, it's like, it's hot in here. I opened the door. I was cutting his hair. 2 other people came by. The next thing I know, I was making more money cutting hair than I was being a soldier. That's the 3rd one. The 4th one happened, which was probably a pivotal change in the way I view business. And it's not something that most people are often proud enough to say. I got into Amway. And to be clear, I wasn't good at it. I couldn't, that wasn't my thing. But what I did get was I got a book out of it, man. And I got 2 lessons. The book I got, I still have it. It was given to me in 1987 and autographed. I still have that book from 1987. The autograph is a little favorite. The guy who gave it to me was a soldier named McMaster. So his last name was Mac. My last name was McNeil. So he was Big Mac. He was bigger than me. And I was skinny back then. So I was Little Mac. And the thing that he taught me was there's everything about you is going to be the same as it is, except for two things: the people you hang around and the books, and back then tapes that you read and listen to. So what information you gather and how you learn. And so that was pivotal for me as someone teaching myself to progressively get better. And I became a huge consumer of books and reading after that. And so like you can see some of them behind me, you know, I had to throw some away because it's just ridiculous at my house. My son is so bad. We used to have to tell him that he couldn't read in the car because the trip between the bookstore and the house, he would read half of the book. And then we were spending his book expense was more than his allowance. And so we had to kind of balance it out. And so that one happened. And then I want to say, gosh, I'm trying to remember what the other ones were. Yeah, I was a funeral director who spun a side hustle into another company. So I started buying burial plots and selling them, buying them wholesale in the open market and wholesale them. So when people would run on financial challenges, I would go and they would list their plot for sale. And so what I would do is I would, you know, negotiate them down and buy multiples. So I was in the real estate game and I was flipping them. And what would happen when I didn't flip it as a 6-foot depth, I sold them as double deckers. And a double decker is when the husband and spouse are buried on top of each other. And so because I worked in a funeral home and people would come in and they're like, man, we can't afford that peer range funeral. We can't make the payments. I would capture all that data and then I would follow up with them and then pitch them my low cost double decker that was significantly cheaper than what they were being offered retail. And eventually I was found out and they told me that I was no longer welcome. And so that was my next business. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was illegal. I was showing up at the sites selling, not visiting. So I lost a loved one. So the people who really caught me were the people at the cemetery. And they were like, why is this guy always here? I was in Denver. So a black guy at a cemetery 2-3 days a week just stuck out. And so eventually that became a problem. And then I think things evolved and there was, and as you can tell, like none of these businesses are connected, but they're all about people and opportunity and these small niches and nuances of existing businesses and turning something into a little more of something. And then I'm trying to think, so in Chicago, we had the home improvement and remodeling company. Before that, I also had a telecommunications company. So we were selling data. And so I had found a wholesale accumulator of phone numbers, names, and addresses, and we were marketing them to marketing companies and people who were trying to reach people. So we had this huge database. And so at that time, I wish I would have known, but of course that information changes a lot. So we weren't really great at maintaining it, but data was king and we were selling data and we did pretty well for a while. And then I had this opportunity to get into a home improvement and remodeling business. I bought a home here in Chicago. I still live in it. It was a 100-some-year-old house and it needed a lot of work. And so I was hiring contractors and it would be crazy. I invite 3, one wouldn't show, one would show up late. And then the guy who was on time was usually the guy who got the business and he wasn't the best. And so I thought, oh my gosh, why is this so hard? And I said to myself, I could do this, right? I know nothing about contracting. My father was a slumlord a little bit. So I was on roofs at 12 years old. Me and my brothers, we were all free slave labor. And so we were always doing something, fixing something, repairing something. So I had the knack of repair so that I could learn enough and study and read. I had the whole Time Life home improvement series. And so I started hiring a guy and I got a guy who was like my guy who could handle the technical part. And then I could run the sales and marketing. And then we just ran into problems with consistency with labor. And I couldn't bring myself to do a poor job and be a part of that. So if I couldn't be great at it, I was going to let it go. And so I hunted around for what I would do next. I went into technology, loved it. I launched my own technology company at newcarpromos.com. It was a new car marketplace where all of the promotions and rebates were aggregated on our site. We were selling advertising to the automotive space and we were getting some traction there. But for some reason, I didn't feel like that was my thing. I didn't love it. I saw it as a way to make money doing something that I knew. But I knew I was missing something because I had done a lot of things. So I wanted to go and work for a couple small companies for entrepreneurs who had been wildly successful. And then I got the secret. I got the breakdown for how they built their business. And their secret for launching their business, if I have 30 seconds, I'll run it. And it's worth it. So they were all Jewish men. And in their early 30s, they launched their business, and it started as a backyard barbecue. And their dad basically said to his friends, "Hey, my son's starting a business. Are you interested in investing?" And he'll come around to you all and talk to you. And so they told the story about talking to their family's friends, and they raised $30,000. And they asked 3 questions. 1, will you invest? If yes or no. And if the answer is yes, great. The answer is no. Will you introduce me to someone who will invest, or can you be a customer? And through that process, they would repeat it with everyone they met they were introduced to. And then eventually they got their investors. But not only that, they had kind of $1 million pipeline of customers. And so they then, year 1, were Inc. 5,000 companies because they went from 0 to $1 million in 1 year. They were the darlings of their industry. And so I heard this maybe 15 years before, but I didn't know what I was hearing. When I heard it again, it made sense. Then I worked for another firm and heard almost the exact same story, almost verbatim. And what I learned then that I talked about earlier today was it wasn't that they were the best, the brightest, and the most talented, is that they had people behind them. Their network was going to work for them. Their investment capital came from their community, and their early customers came from their community. And what they didn't know, or they did know, was they also took credibility with them. And so those lessons I took with me when I launched my current company, and the things that we've been able to do in the time we've been able to do it. We're becoming a dominating force in this space, not just because I think we're good at what we do, but because of the community of relationships of people that we're involved with, and not just them giving to us, because we view giving as a mutual thing. And we think that it's our responsibility to initiate the give. So whether your position in life is far senior to mine, I am looking for a way to help you solve an unusual problem so that our relationship and your relationship with me is one that I'm going to add value to you. And so those are the businesses that I can remember. I'm sure there's at least 2 or 3 I forgot. But that's kind of the culmination of my story and how it's evolved. And every stage and every company prepared me for my today challenges. And Darren said something that I do remember times, and I was like, oh my God. And it happens a lot, like, what's going on? We don't have the pipeline's drying up. No one's returning our calls. We haven't heard it from anyone. And then it happens. And then we're on fire again, feeling like champions. And so balancing those ups and downs, man, are really critical for the men and women who want to launch companies or are launching companies right now.
Well, one thing I hear you say consistently, you and Darren said it, is really about being consistent and creating activity. You got to create activity to make some stuff happen. If Darren doesn't go out to meet the lady, he doesn't get those 6 policies. And if you're not asking for business, you're not getting business, Will. Those people aren't growing their business. They're not asking for money or referrals or for you to shop with me. So you got to create the activity to do it. So
yeah. And I could never, like referral business, I used to never understood why that was so important, because I spent much of my adult life as a cold caller, that I could take a stranger and make them a customer for life. That was my core skill. What I discovered is far better is taking someone and making them an advocate.
Mm-hmm.
That is a far better skill, because there's multiplicity in that. And so every stranger that becomes a friend becomes an advocate. And then when you have dozens of advocates, you only need a few of them to be on par at one time. But if you always have someone working in your favor, you're unstoppable.
Will, I don't know what you're selling, but I want to buy whatever you're selling. Whatever you selling, I ain't figured it out yet.
Well, I want Will to write a book. I think he needs to write a book.
I think that every entrepreneur has a book in them. I
think you got 5. I think you got 5.
I love the way you think, Melinda. I would say I think I only got time for one, but the one I'm working on, though, it's called Extreme Simplicity. And so I think that most solutions to most problems and business problems are found in simple places. I think complex ideas are hard to execute and hard to get other people to participate in. Just like, if you have children, getting them to clean their room and getting them to do something else in addition. So you narrow the focus, just clean your room. Lord, please just do that. And then sometimes it's just like, get the clothes together, and then we can work on the other segments and breaking things into pieces, because a lot of things can get done in small pieces if you do things in successive order. So that's one of the things that I'm working on. But I've talked entirely too much. I am going to pause so that, because our other panelists have amazing things to say.
It's good stuff, Will. Now, we appreciate you, man. I wouldn't have asked if I didn't want to hear you, man. So I do have a few more questions we're going to run through real quick that we got from the community. So I want to keep these responses tight, but I think there's good things here that I think our community wants to hear about. And so I think we touched bases on one of them already, so we'll skip that one. But how important has your network been to growing your business? I know, Will, you touched on that a little bit. Darren, Melinda,
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it's been about who I know in my network, because I don't advertise. If I were producing a wedding, there's 200 people that see me at that wedding, and most of the times in certain environments, I stick out. I might have been the only person of color there. So they saw me handling my business. And I think that a lot of the clients I've gotten were when I was doing events when no one was watching, and then people speaking well about me. I once got a position to work for a billionaire for 18 months. Matty Maroon owned the Ambassador Bridge. And so I was working on a committee, and his wife said, "Oh, hi, I'm Mrs. Maroon, Ambassador Bridge." I said, "Oh, okay, I thought she worked there." And I said, "Okay, well, thank you. Can you please, do this, do that?" And they said, "No, her husband owns the bridge." Okay, well, first of all, who owns a bridge? And after that event, she said, "Hey, I'd like to offer you a position. Nikki told me about your background as an architect. I have this project." And at first I told her no. And then she gave me this offer, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. So the network and who you know is most important. And I've always tried to keep a really great reputation and not do anybody wrong, because you never know. Yeah. So very important.
There were, in starting out, State Farm gives you a little small marketing budget and advertising budget. Very, very small. And being young and not understanding business, you're just trying to go out there and get the business. So I never spent any of their money because I actually didn't know how to spend it, and I wanted to spend it wisely. And if I didn't have a network, and if I wasn't on the ground talking to people, I don't think I would be here today. Because oftentimes my name was being talked about in rooms that I didn't have an opportunity to get to yet. So when I think about networks are everything. That's your referral base, your referral source. You have an opportunity for those people to be out in masses talking about you, so they can help you procure that business. So networks, oh man, there were some years where I didn't even spend any money on advertising because I had networks out there and I was talking to people. And for me, if I can save some money on advertising and I can talk to people and I can just give them a simple return, but networks are everything.
And one thing I would say about networks is feed your network, not just, because them giving to you, but I'll tell you, I try to over pour into mine, like even the way that, like people send Christmas notes and all this other stuff. I send emails and text messages on President's Day, Halloween, MLK Day. I wouldn't hit you when no one else is talking to you. I'll send you a note for no reason at 4 a.m. and just say, "Hey, how you doing? I was thinking about you." And this is to a client.
Yeah, well, you better watch you send those to, man. At 4 o'clock in the morning.
And just to clarify, I hope all is well and that business is going well, right? So let me give you the whole message. so it's not misunderstood. I'm up at 4:30 working. So, and I think in feeding your network, I'll give you an example. Like I'm pursuing a new client today. They're a startup company, Black-owned, medical technology company here in Chicago. Super bag, couple of brothers are just doing amazing stuff. And we were talking about doing business. We're expensive. We're not cheap. We provide a customized service that not many people in the marketplace offer. And what we do is real. And I understand it because it's the next level of fundraising. And so today, I just sent them a reminder notes to kind of see where they are. And I told them it's okay either way, but they're trying to hire a product manager. But I sent them this article from a company that it's from a space in the investment community. Because one of the most important hires you'll make as a tech company is a product manager, your first product manager. So I sent them an article about hiring your first product manager through the lens of a startup technology company. And the guy responded back like, thanks, Will. You get a lot of random stuff, but something that's specific to providing assistance and help. The other thing is I probably sent them to a website they had no idea existed that can actually help them in the other facets of their business over time. And so, I think if you are really good at networking, you're good at helping other people solve their unusual problems. And when you're able to do that, people will find you. And then never judge a book by its cover, because people will reach out to you and you're like, what's this about? I had a woman who saw me on the news the other day in San Francisco, older white woman, sent me a note, says, hey, I saw you on TV, would love to connect. And I'm like, what? And so I said, okay. And come to find out, she's the head of the Graduate School of Engineering at Carnegie Mellon in the Silicon Valley. This woman is super bad. I mean, she was a senior executive as a woman in technology in the 80s. She's an OG, and she's amazing. And we become friends. And, and she is like all in on helping a brother out, because that's just who she is. And so when you meet people like that who are can provide you assistance, if you're compelled to give back, man, it comes back to you. So I would say to people, I don't care where you are in your journey, in your career, in your vocation, there's lots of people who are going to have more, who are going to know more, who can do more. You always have something to give. You always have something to give. Just do a little work. You always have something to give.
Thank you, Will. Much appreciated. One more question from the community. And I'm going to word it this way. So I know you've seen other entrepreneurs who've been successful and not successful. So let's look at the ones who've not been successful, and you've seen them do things and you're looking at them and you're saying, don't do it, but they do it anyway. What are some of those things that you've seen entrepreneurs do that make you cringe and you're like, oh my God, what are they doing?
I think, if I can answer first, right, I think most of the folks in society now are about immediate gratification. And then when you look on all the social media platforms, the first thing people do is, I started a business. Well, what type of business did you start? And then to Will's point, they don't understand product management, branding, and any of that information. One of the major mistakes that I see people making, Will mentioned it before, is having a mentor. If you're interested in starting a business, the first thing you should be doing is working on your money. The second thing is finding a mentor, somebody that has made the mistakes that you potentially are going to make, and you got to listen, but you got to have a mentor. Oftentimes we don't listen to our mentors until later on, but oftentimes we just don't understand what our mentors are talking about because they're so far down the road until we're trying to still figure this stuff out. I encourage people to listen intently and always ask the questions. Ask the questions. The answer is always out there. It's always out there. That's one of the major mistakes, not having a mentor, not understanding the business, and just being overly excited about this immediate gratification that they want till they don't understand the overall comprehensiveness and the fundamentals of owning a business.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Darren. Melinda?
I think one mistake that I see entrepreneurs make is through social media and not really understanding that they are their brand. And so what they put out there in social media can come back to haunt them in the future, because sometimes people just really just like talking about random things or talking crazy. And then, oh, years later, oh, yeah, we saw you talking like that. And maybe they don't get a job because of that. And I think you always have to remember that people are always watching you. And I think, Darren, did you say that people want to see you fail?
Yep.
So you have to learn how to separate your social media presence in a way from your personality, because maybe you need a private account where you can go off and really share your feelings. But, for me, I have 3,600 Facebook followers. I don't know why, but I'm very, very careful about what I put out there. So I think that my circle has tended to become smaller as I've really developed in business, because it can be a very dangerous thing. So not really understanding how to use social media is a big mistake that I see people making a lot.
And Melinda, if I can add to that, we have I won't name any names in the story that I give you guys, but we had a kid here who played basketball here in the city of Chicago, ended up matriculating to college, went to the NBA. He mentioned something on social media about this particular star basketball player and their family. And now he's on the team with this star player.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff that he's out there on social media has resurfaced. Now, it hasn't caused any issue, but to know that you mentioned it and now it's resurfacing, it's your point is spot on. When you're socializing, there's a way that you socialize, because at some point, you never know if you're going to be a business owner or not. And just always try to be respectful, because it can come back to haunt you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm going to take a completely different direction. I think the number one mistake new business owners start is starting a business. It ain't for everybody. I will tell you, before you do it, stop. And so, ask yourself why. It's not for everybody. Who in the world, I'm half crazy, gets up at 4:30 in the morning to work all day? In what planet does that make sense when you have other options? If you don't have a fire in your belly that drives you to behave that way, then don't. If your reason for starting a business is because you don't like your boss, don't do it. If you don't like your job, get a different one. Build new skills, develop new talents. And then I would say, if you still have the passion for it after that, then you should figure out, can your wallet handle it? One of the lessons I think I learned across the number of businesses, some who failed miserably, was don't expect to make any money in the first year. If you can't afford to have $0 come in for the first year, you're not ready to jump out there yet. And second, don't jump out there and start a company just because you have one customer. So especially in the Black community and those of us who do service business, very often you'll launch our businesses with one client. And that one client we'll describe it as our anchor client. And that's sometimes code for our only client. So hashtag our homie or our girlfriend got us a contract with the company they work for. But if he or she gets promoted, they get transferred, they lose their job, there's a restructuring, you don't have a business. And I've actually watched that happen to a number of people that I really, really like. And they go from, a really good 6-figure income, multiple year after year after year, and then it halts. So no matter how good the big deal is, diversify your group of customers. Always, as the ABC, always be closing, always build that pipeline, always have diversify. And I'll even throw a number out there. Never allow more than one client to be more than 30% of your business if you want to stay afloat. And I've even seen that for places that I worked, when we allowed as a company for one client to have that big of an impact. When at some point, every client is a breakup. And it doesn't always mean that it's bad, but something changes. They go in a different direction. There's new leadership, nothing that you did wrong. But that breakup, it isn't if it's coming, it's when it's coming. And is your business able to handle it? So if you lose that anchor client, do you still have a business? And the answer to that is no, you may not have a business yet. You may be a subcontractor out there making a decent buck, but I'll tell you, you don't have a business until you can manage losing your biggest client and you can continue to grow. And that's a litmus test, and a reality check, because Rod talks about reality all the time. So I'll stop there.
Your story reminds me of the story in the E-Myth Revisited. Most of you guys probably have read that book about the female baker. She's a great baker and she loved baking cakes, and everybody would tell her, go out and start your business, go out and start your business. And she went out and started her business and she failed because she realized all she wanted to do was what? Bake cake.
Right.
And just because you're a great baker doesn't make you an entrepreneur. So to your point, people need to understand what it is that they're about to embark on before they actually do it, and ask themselves a serious question. You know, is this for me? Can I weather this? Can I do that? Can I do that? So,
Mhm.
And it's okay not to have a business. You know, there's no crime. There's no shame in that.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, like you said, it's not for everyone. And so for me, how I built up my business, I worked like 70 hours a week. I had a full-time job, and then I had my other clients. So, and all of my vacations were for working my other events. So people see that success and they think, oh, wow, I can do that. And they get into it and they're like, no, do I want to be working at 4 o'clock in the morning or working 20 hours? No, it's not for everybody.
And I like what you said, Melinda, too, is like when there's a transition you make from having your job and your side hustle, then the side hustle becomes the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great path. I don't know the answer for the tipping point when it's the right time to jump, but I think you do want to have multiple ways to generate revenue, meaning that your business has multiple products, because at some point, you know, the economy is going to turn. It's just the way of the world. And then if that happens, or I should say when it happens again, because it just does, you know, how will you pivot and how will you stack your chips? Darren said something earlier about immediate gratification. You know, when you get those first series of big paychecks, right, it feels really good. You know, don't go out and buy the Mercedes yet. You know, get yourself in a situation where if the prepare, just talk about an insurance, prepare for that emergency. You know, you make yourself your own insurance policy. You're kind of, I call it the oh shoot fund, the eventual accident that will happen at some point, and be ready for it. So it's only a bump in the road and not a catastrophe for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Rob, venues like this and what you're doing now is needed out there because no one's having that frank discussion with folks about being an entrepreneur. So this is a great platform for folks to be able to come and reach out to you. And it, in my opinion, it should cost. People shouldn't be receiving this information for free. It should cost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, we're building a community, and one of the main things for Sims Culture Group is to really build a community of entrepreneurs. And so Ready, Set, Launch allows me and the company to do that by bringing you guys together to provide that information, and with the hopes of, you know, people out there who need additional direction will seek out a community like ours that we're building to grow together, to help them avoid, get mentorship, get referrals, all the things we talked about. A community can provide that to you. And so as we build this out and we grow our community, that's the end goal. All the things you guys have talked about are all the things that we hope to see in our community expand: networking, mentorship, referrals, all the stuff that you guys have touched on as part of having a community. And so I appreciate you guys for sharing that and reinforcing it. All right, so that's the last question from the community because we talked about the other one. So before we wrap up, guys, I want to give each of you an opportunity to give me like just one quick word of wisdom for the community of entrepreneurs, and then let me know what's next for your business. So Darren, start with you, sir.
Just one comment and one word of wisdom is just focus on understanding the business, focus on mentorship, focus on talking to other folks who are in the business that you're interested in going in before you start. There are people sitting on the sideline waiting to speak with you, to help you. From a business standpoint, just growing, just trying to grow. I'm in the process working with you, bringing on some more folks to help me grow. Right now, technology is advancing at a rapid pace, and the insurance industry is doing that as well. So just trying to grow outside of this pandemic that we have going on. And just also excited about the opportunities that are out there on an individual level for stuff that you can do. While we're in a pandemic, it's unfortunate for a lot of people, But I think these are great, but this is a great opportunity, fortunate times ahead for if you view it as being an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dan.
I think along those lines, I was going to say mastering the art of pivoting, because if anything that the pandemic taught us is you have to be nimble and flexible, and you have to be creative. I know for me, I'm in the process of pivoting a little bit more because big events, I don't know if they're really coming back this year. So, and I think that also Will talked about the multiple streams of income. That's something that I definitely want to work on and get more into. In the future, I would like to do more design talks where I produce my own events rather than producing events for others. So that's what I'm really trying to set myself up for.
Awesome. So words of wisdom, stay a student. And there's a lot of free training programs in the marketplace today. There's CDCs across America for in underserved communities. There's Chamber of Commerce events. There's a lot of free information. YouTube's amazing. I learned a ton of stuff leveraging YouTube. And so I would say for someone who's on a budget, it's not an excuse for education. You know, the investment is time. And if you stay a student, you're going to learn something that you can make money off of. And I think to what Melinda was saying is there's money being made in the worst situations of the world. During war, someone profits. During the big gold rush, the companies that made the most money were Levi's, the people who made jeans, and the people who made picks and forks. Now, the gold people were selling gold, they made money too. But man, look for those fringe opportunities, and the fringe opportunities in your business too. You know, I think about one of my mentors. He was a next door neighbor of mine. His nickname was Gator. And that's how everybody knows him. But Gator was a retired factory worker. He must have had 30 businesses in my lifetime. But the thing about him, I remember I took my girlfriend there. This was years ago. And we went to get our car wash. So he had a custom hand car wash. We were sitting there waiting 30, 40 minutes. So you know what Gator did? He knocked out walls in the side of the car wash and made a barbecue joint. So he was selling barbecue dinners. You were there long enough to eat a whole barbecue meal. So he took a $20 transaction and made it a $40 transaction and maximized that sitting around time. Found some old benches in the outside in the summertime, would play 70s and 80s music, and people would hang around. And so it was amazing how he took that small idea and doubled his revenue. And so I think, you know, look for those opportunities, stay a student. And then to answer the other part of your question, what's up for us in the future? So we host a handful of events every year. So mad respect to people who do events. To be honest, I don't like them, but they're a necessary part of our business because it's an important part of our investment in the Black tech community, investing in people, in developing skills that are going to help them be successful either with us or without us. And so we've got a big event coming up in February. It's called Power Networking 2021. We're going to, for 1 hour, we're going to bring 10 companies together. We're going to bring 100 Black tech professionals, and we're going to make 1,000 one-on-one connections in a turbo video format that we hope is going to create some real career opportunities for both our business partners as well as the Black tech community. And then the last thing we have, you know, this is a big year for us. We wanted to make some big bets last year, so we're adjusting. So our clients have been pushing us. So in 2021, Black tech jobs will be going into both the UK and into Canada. So we will be an international company.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, my Detroit sister.
The one thing I
I'll
can
be in
say
your neck
about
of the woods.
all these next steps is that I know who to reach out to when I'm for a loan in a couple of years. So I'm just keeping you guys on the Rolodex because it sounds like everybody's gonna be making it happen. You make it happen.
Trying,
Well,
brother, trying.
I really appreciate you guys joining us tonight and sharing all your entrepreneurial journey with us and your words of wisdom. Truly appreciate it. But to the community, I really appreciate the community for everybody who's joining us tonight and watching the video and joining our community to learn about everybody's entrepreneurial path. I hope that you had some great takeaways that will assist you on your journey. If you're not part of the Ready, Set, Launch entrepreneur community, we'd love you to join us. So at the end of this video, there'll be some contact information if you want to reach out to learn more about our community. We'd love to sit down and talk to you about it. And with that being the case, I want to thank my panel again for dropping all those pearls of wisdom, giving up their time and dedicating it to us and sharing all the great information. I've learned some things about everybody on the call that I didn't know. And so I'm impressed, and I know that you guys are probably impressed too. And so thank you for joining us. Have a good evening, and then we look forward to seeing you on the next session. Thanks, Mike.